We started working with human trafficking issues, those who were exploited in that way with Project Rescue, all the way back in 2003. And when Denise and I and then my 3-year-old son would come back and we go to churches and we talk about what we're involved in and what the needs were, almost to a person, people would come up and say, hey, our church has given money to this shelter, these kind of things. But what can we put our hands to, right? What can we do? It's just been amazing to see how God has blessed and grown the ministry of Free International. Free is U.S.-based, International's in the name, because we've worked cases all over the world as far as young ladies and families that are being exploited here. But all the money that ever came to Free was used here in the States. We weren't building shelters overseas. We weren't doing those kind of things. We were investing in those, particularly our kids who were being exploited right here in the States. And we started back in 2007, and Free stands for this. It stands for Find, Restore, Embrace, and Empower. That's what it stands for. First thing we need to be able to do is find those who are being exploited, right? The Bible tells us the enemy is like a roaring lion seeking whom he can destroy and devour. That's right. But the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. We were the early starters of what became a Super Bowl outreach that now hundreds of groups are involved in all the time. We started in Tampa Bay 2009 at the Super Bowl, and I remember going in for the first time. We would mobilize at that time a small group of people who were college and career groups, some of the ladies groups from the churches in that area, and they would help us. We were working with law enforcement to identify a top 30 list of missing kids that we knew their backstory, right? They were part of the social service world. They were runaways because they were being exploited, or they were under somebody's control like a pimp. Law enforcement was giving us their cases, and 12, 13, 14-year-old girls that they knew were under somebody's control. And we didn't go slave hunting. We just mobilized to reach into that community, to draw attention to those faces, right? And be able to be present in that community in a way to look. So that we ended up, there was every kid who had been missing at least 3 months or longer was given to us. And over the course of a 3-day outreach, there was about 100 people from our churches and a couple other partner not-for-profits we were working with. And in 3 days' time, we cleared 3 precincts for the missing kids completely off the books.
Hallelujah.
Amen. 7 traffic victims were recovered, and many of those who were exploiting are still in prison to this day. And people, man, how'd you do that? We found as many as 27 kids in a 3-day search that we call a big search. And people go, how did you do that? Well, we were looking for it, right? You can't find what you're not looking for. And the church, rightly mobilized in any situation, is going to have impact and power, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. As we gain that confidence, even in a time that the world is drumming fear into our lives, we're present because the one who is missing and being exploited needs freedom and hope and a future, right? Amen. We just did a big search in Orlando just last month at General Council, mobilized many of the people at General Council, became part of our big search. We found 12 kids in a 2-day search with those people, our youngest one being 12 years old, who was being prostituted by her own mom, who was in turn prostituted by her mom when she was older, a generational thing. But God allowed our ministry and partnering with the local churches to intervene in their situation so that they might know who God is and be found. I'm going to wrap this up to say you guys are picking us up as a project this year. I can't thank you enough. So many great things going on. We got a school assembly program that's been in front of 500,000 students. 19 trafficking cases came out of our school assemblies just the 3 months leading into COVID before that happened. A couple of those cases came right out of Joplin, right over on the west side over here, where we did school assemblies. We work with Major League Baseball, who now every ballpark we do a thing called Strikeout Slavery in with Albert and Dee Dee Puvels. Every ballpark that we are in is going to do a big search in their city the year after the ballpark. So we can mobilize our churches to find the missing and the exploited and the vulnerable. Our project this year is a training and ministry center that's going to allow us to put pockets of all our churches around this country in motion each and every day telling stories just like I'm telling you so we can reach into those neighborhoods. It's training first responders and police officers, working with military guys who have PTSD but are trying to find a new way to use the skill sets they have to find the one who is being exploited. It's unprecedented and it's time. God is using his church to reach the one. I want to thank you guys. Every nickel you guys bring in is going to go to help us have you tell more stories like that until every one is free. God bless you guys. Thank you.